Today our guest is Dr. Laurence Broers, London-based Conciliation Resources South Caucasus Program Director. Mr. Broers, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you are here in Yerevan for International Conference on Regional Security Issues. Could you please share with us your assessment on current situation in this region? How can you describe ongoing status quo, especially after 44-day war between Armenia and Azerbaijan?
Well, it's a very complex situation. I think what we've seen over the last 16 to 17 months is this multipolar reordering of the South Caucasus. This has been a fractured region looking in a number of different directions for a long time. But I think for a long time we still had that idea inherited from the 90s. That this region would be westernized, that it would undergo democratic transitions, and that there would be integrations with Europe and the West. And I think, you know, we've kind of woken up now that this is not the reality. What we've seen is a regionalization, particularly of the Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict. We see the presence of a new outside actor, Turkey, is now present in the region. We see tensions in the last few days between Azerbaijan and Iran. And so I think it's an incredibly complex and likely to be unstable situation going forward.
So there are a lot of speculation that this situation is the result of Russian-Turkish agreement like Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact or like Lenin-Ataturk agreement to set up new rule in this region to push out Western powers. Do you agree with this?
Well, it's a good question. There clearly has been a very dynamic relationship between Russia and Turkey. That has been described in a number of different ways. They have been described as frenemies, neither friends nor enemies. Another way to frame the relationship is as cooperative competition. So Russia and Turkey may have clashing interests, but in different theaters they have been able to deconflict those interests.
Like in past?
As in the past. So, as in Syria, for example, the Astana process, which effectively excluded the United States. And there are elements of this that we can see coming out of the Second Karabakh War. Turkey has a symbolic presence in the ceasefire monitoring infrastructure. But I still believe that Russia is committed on a certain level to the continuation of the Minsk group. So what we see is a broader spectrum of channels and mechanisms that Russia is participating in, multilateral, trilateral with Armenia and Azerbaijan, bilateral with Turkey, and unilateral. And so, yeah, it's, I think, not quite the same in the sense that the Minsk group still gives this multilateral overlay for these very geopolitical actors, Russia and Turkey. You
talked about Westernization process here in South Caucasus. Do you think that, especially after 44-day war, that is under threat?
Well, I would say that the Westernization process had been very relative, even prior to the 2020 war. What we've seen over the last 20 years is a very different level of demand for Westernization in the South Caucasus. We've seen Georgia, which has been clearly interested in integrating with the West, Azerbaijan, which wants only a transactional relationship, and Armenia somewhere in between. I think the 2020 Karabakh War clearly resulted in you know, a loss of trust in the West, a loss of belief that this is indeed a club of states that South Caucasus states want to be a part of. But I think there will continue to be an important role for the West, for Euro-Atlantic actors, but it's a post-hegemonic engagement, a much more realistic engagement, not one that is based on the idea that this region will become part of a Western geopolitical space.
Let's explore Russian politics here in this region. What is the Kremlin's main objective here in South Caucasus with its peacekeepers, its bases?
I mean, I think Russia is treading a very fine line between being seen as a former colonial power, acting within the territories of its former colonies, and acting as a regional power and a global power that is interested and invested in a post-Western multipolar world order. I have the sense that Russia, and this was discussed today in the conference, Russia is looking not to take on more than it can chew, to contain the presence of outside actors, but also being very much aware that Russia, with regard to its peacekeeping mission in Nagorno-Karabakh today, is solely responsible for a situation that no one is ultimately satisfied with. And so this is the reason why I think that over the long term, Russia will be committed, will find new reasons to engage with the Minsk Group. The Minsk Group is the alternative to unilateral geopolitics, and for Armenia and Azerbaijan is the alternative to being left alone in a process with Russia, which for many years was one of the few things that Yerevan and Baku agreed on.
Do you think that peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan is possible in the near future?
I think it will take time for a comprehensive peace agreement to become possible. I know that the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan have signaled their readiness to meet. I think perhaps in the first instance, at a first meeting, in this situation, they should focus on de-escalatory measures. They should focus on the issues that are causing pain in public opinion, issues of the Armenian prisoners, of minefields, and of de-escalating the rhetoric. There may be progress on specific bilateral issues in the Russian-mediated trilateral format, but I think over the long term, for a comprehensive peace agreement, one that regulates all issues related to the conflict, we will see this process circle back to the Minsk Group.
Let's talk about relations between Armenia and Turkey. Is it real to expect some progress in this direction?
Well, I'm not an expert on that particular topic, but it seems to me that there are grounds for to believe that there may be some movement. For all of these plans for regional connectivity to be plausible, I think the Armenia-Turkey border would need to be open. It's hard to envisage an opened up South Caucasus with that border remaining closed. For Turkey, I think there are motivations to see this process move forward. Turkey is not present in the working group. It's not present in the ceasefire declaration. Without opening this border, it remains very much on the outside. I think a key question is the readiness here in Armenia. There are understandable worries about the economic influence, the impacts of opening the border. But I think the key point is that this should be a decision that's not made anywhere else other than in Yerevan and Ankara.
During the past several days, we were witnesses of Iranian unusual activity. For example, Iranian military exercises near the Azerbaijani border. Armenian foreign minister visited Tehran. Iranian foreign minister 3 days ago was in Moscow. So what does it mean?
Well, I think Iran is in a very interesting position in a way because it's the regional power that was very much in a spectator role during the Second Karabakh War. It's not present in any of the ceasefire or mediation infrastructure. So it is implicated but doesn't have levers of influence. I think the Azerbaijani victory last year has implications for Iran. It has implications in terms of a new border regime. It has implications in terms of the identity factor, a very large number of ethnic Azerbaijanis living in Iran. And it has implications in terms of the Azerbaijani-Israeli relationship, on which there's been a lot of speculation in recent days. I think any longer-term stabilization and peace in the South Caucasus somehow also needs to build in the Iranian factor that so far has been largely absent.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.